Clay Howerton, especially for inviting me to come and speak today. I was interviewed by Clay about a year and a half ago on his podcast called Core Principles. So I don't know how many of you know about that, but I highly recommend you listen to that. And also maybe you could go and look for my interview called The Power of Food. First I want to mention that I don't sell anything. I don't have any nutritional materials. I'm not peddling supplements. I offer no services. And I won't profit financially in any way from this. I'm just giving of myself and my time because I am kind of on a mission. And I'm 65 years old, and I have witnessed a great decline in our health as a people, as a country, and I have been scratching my head trying to figure out why that is. Why in a country where you have so many resources, and you have so many, you have the medical profession, you have everything at your disposal, why are we getting sicker? I've seen that over the time period of my life. Why are we struggling with autoimmune illnesses and diseases that you never even heard of? When I was a child, I never heard of any of that. I didn't hear about Alzheimer's, for example, until I was a young adult. So that's just my passion. And so also I wanted to mention that, anytime you hear somebody talk about health and they make recommendations, you never want to make any changes to your medicines or to your health protocol, and that's no different today. So my education, I do have an undergraduate degree from the University of Southern Mississippi in education, but what I'm going to talk to you about today is self-taught, kind of like an autodidact, nutritionally speaking. What I'll share today, although good nutritional science is not commonly understood, it's under the radar. You have to really look for it in order to find it. And you really have to educate yourself in order to benefit from the information. The content, the concepts, and the sciences for today's presentation have been acquired from medical doctors, PhDs, and researchers who prescribe to a macronutrient metabolic dietary model, as opposed to a caloric model, which is what we've been told we're supposed to do for many generations. Count calories, restrict calories, eat less, burn more, and portion control. That's not what the ketogenic diet is about. My material is based on the first principle approach to learning and to nutritional science and the biochemical needs of the human body. First principle thinking is a fancy way of saying think like a scientist. The scientist does not make assumptions at all. The scientist asks questions and listens to the answers. The scientist asks questions like, what are we absolutely sure is true? And what has been proven? So I'm going to be a myth buster today, or I'm going to try to be a myth buster. You may or may not agree with my content, but I hope that you will leave challenged and that you will consider not just how to eat, but why you eat. And so often the why is more important than the how. Please keep in mind also that I recognize that there are many competing, contradictory views within the world of nutrition. I know that. And so, for example, you can go online and type in the question, is coffee good for you? And get an answer. And then you can go right back in and type in, is coffee bad for you? And get the exact same answer. So we've all experienced that, and we all know that. But my hope is to entice you and to give you a desire to verify either what I say or disprove it. Today, Americans currently consume a very ultra-processed, highly refined, and hyper-palatable plant-based grain diet. This is a recent phenomenon, and most of these foods had never been eaten before, nor in the quantity in which we eat them. So this infographic image that I have up here on the screen, this was the results of a recent NIH funded Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition recommendations, and it's known as the Food Compass. Has anybody heard of that? It's kind of controversial, just came out recently within the last month. The top green portion are the items that you really should eat, the middle portions you want to moderate, and the bottom portion you don't want to eat at all or greatly minimize. In that top section are chocolate-covered almonds and Honey Bunches of oat cereal. At the very bottom are eggs cooked in butter, cheddar cheese, and ground beef. So that's an example of what I'm talking about as far as what we're supposed to be eating. You know what's really interesting about this? Does anybody know what the most nutrient-dense food is? Does anyone happen to know in this room what the most nutrient-dense food is on the planet? It's beef liver. So we don't eat liver that much anymore. I grew up eating liver, but that was nowhere on that NIH-funded outcome. Okay, myth number 2, carbohydrates are necessary for optimal health. Why is this a myth? Well, if you go back to first principles, which I think we should if you want to think like a scientist, established nutritional science gives us our breakdown of micronutrients and macronutrients. Macronutrients are the broad categories of vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and other elements in addition to our energy needs required for normal growth, metabolism, and other body functions. So there are only 3 macronutrients if you look at the screen. This is established nutritional science. You have protein, you have fat, you have carbohydrates. But there are only 2 essential macros, and they are protein and fat. So there are no essential carbohydrates based on nutritional science. So if you look at the pictures here, everything that we've been told to eat 5 to 6, 7 portions of every day is not essential for our body. There are no essential fruits, there are no essential vegetables, there are no essential grains, seeds, nuts, beans, or legumes. It's just the way it is. And on a keto diet, you eat a very limited amount of carbohydrates because not only are they not required by the body, but this is where many of our health issues come from. If you have to do an elimination diet, if you have allergies, or if you have autoimmune, typically what you're going to cut out is something that comes from the carbohydrate column, not from the protein and fat column. And also, when you consume carbohydrates, the body has to produce insulin in order to metabolize the carbohydrates and convert them into energy in the form of glucose. So when you consume protein and fat, your 2 essential macros, there's no insulin required, and your body produces ketones, which your body actually prefers over glucose. In today's climate, we're eating so many carbohydrates that our body is producing way too much insulin. And insulin is obviously necessary. It's the fat storage hormone, it's the growth hormone, and it does a lot of other things. But too much insulin creates a whole cascade of other kinds of complications, one of which is called insulin resistance or hyperinsulinemia. I don't know if you realize this or not, but for example, Alzheimer's disease is now considered by the Mayo Clinic and others in the medical world as type 3 diabetes. We're not really told that a lot, but that is what they're looking at it. It's diabetes of the brain because there's so much sugar in our diet that the brain is becoming insulin resistant and it doesn't want any more sugar, so it's not getting the energy it needs. That's a layman's way of trying to describe that, but I know the research is there. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is considered by many in the medical world as diabetes of the ovaries. So even if you are not pre-diabetic, even if you don't have a history of diabetes, now you have to be concerned about the possibility that you could become pre-diabetic. Diabetes, the rate of diabetes has skyrocketed, and in part it's because of all the highly processed carbohydrates that we are eating. Myth number 3, animal foods and dairy are unhealthy. Why is this a myth? Because you only have 2 essential macros. Remember, first principles. And one is protein. And the reason we need protein is because your body has to have amino acids. You have to have fat because your body requires fatty acids. So why would we want to eliminate the very source of the amino acids and the fatty acids that our body requires? And when you say requires, what that means is your body cannot produce it, so you must consume it. Okay? Your body cannot produce amino acids and it cannot produce fatty acids, so you have to consume that. So animal foods, specifically protein and fat, are necessary for optimal health. Myth number 4, a ketogenic diet has health risks. Now, if you've never heard of a ketogenic diet, you're not going to understand this, but it has been criticized, and there have been allegations that it's not healthy. Well, so why is it that back in the early 1900s, if you had epilepsy, you were put on a ketogenic diet? And the reason that they did that is because it's very high in fat and low in carbohydrates, and they found that they could actually eliminate their seizures. So now we have medicines and we don't need to use our diet, although it would probably be better if we did, to treat epilepsy, but they actually eliminated epileptic seizures through the ketogenic diet. And there are many, many, many other benefits. It's anti-inflammatory, it's antioxidative, it's highly satiating. If you want to lose fat, not weight, because you don't want to lose muscle, you don't want to lose bone, you just want to lose fat, that is exactly what the keto diet addresses, because you're going to burn ketones and you're going to burn dietary fat. Improved mental health, emotional stability, and then there are just a whole array of other optimal health outcomes. Most people who are sick find that if they go on a keto diet and they eliminate a lot of the foods that are resulting in excess sugar in the system and heightened levels of insulin, that they actually are losing the symptoms that they've experienced. And that just, it just goes across the board, whether you have rheumatoid arthritis, whether you have IBS, whether you have Crohn's disease, whether you have diabetes, whether you have cancer. Yes, I'm going to say cancer. They have found that they have been able to reduce the symptoms across the board by increasing their fat and their protein and restricting their carbohydrates. Isn't that a wonderful thing, especially if you're sick and you've been sick for a long time? Myth number 5, dietary fat and cholesterol cause heart disease. Why is this a myth? Did you know that your body produces 80% of its needs for cholesterol? So if it's so bad, why is your body producing it? And cholesterol is extremely valuable to the body. And there really isn't any link in the most current research where you show cause and effect, not association or correlation, but where you show cause and effect, there is no correlation. It's like blaming the firefighter that comes to the house to put the fire out. Yes, you do see cholesterol present when there's damage to a vein, but that's because the body produces cholesterol to go to the damaged area and patch it and try to mend it. So the firefighter doesn't cause the fire. The firefighter is there to put the fire out, and that's what our cholesterol does. There's so much more that could be said about that. Myth number 6, fruits and vegetables are more nutritional than animal foods or dairy. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't eat fruits and vegetables. Please don't misunderstand. But the implication has been, and we've been told since the 1970s when the McGovern Commission established the food pyramid back in the day, many of you my age or older remember, you know, at the top of the pyramid were meat and dairy and eggs, things that you weren't supposed to eat. The bottom of the pyramid are all the breads, the pastas, the rice, the potatoes. And we were told to eat much more of that, and we still are today, actually. We still are a grain-based diet, so country with our food standards. But the truth is, if you look at the slide, vitamins and minerals are often not bioavailable in vegetables. You can't access them. It might say it on paper that there's iron in this vegetable or there's calcium in that vegetable, but you have a hard time, the body has a hard time accessing them because the body usually has to perform some kind of a conversion to get to it. And then vegetables also have anti-nutrients, which prevent the vitamins and the minerals from being absorbed. Much of the inflammation and the oxidation comes from our vegetables, causing all kinds of problems that you don't get from protein and fat. And vegetables are carbohydrates, which I didn't know when I started this diet 6 years ago. I thought you had starchy foods, which were carbohydrates, and then you had vegetables, and you had fruit, you had meat. I did not know that vegetables and fruit are carbohydrates, so they require insulin in order to be metabolized. The more you eat of that, the more the body has to produce the insulin. And then today's fruit has been completely adulterated. It's so hybridized that you're just eating a sugar bomb, basically, when you eat fruit. 5 times the amount of sugar over vegetables and fruit, and 85% of our fruit is sugar. On and on and on. I don't know if you realize it or not, but the banana, the original banana, was inedible. It was fibrous. You had to boil it to eat it. The seeds in the banana were about the size of an almond, and you wouldn't have been able to eat the banana unless you boiled it, and who would want to eat it? But we've altered the banana so much that it doesn't even resemble a banana. Myth number 7, calories are empty and useful for weight management. Why is this a myth? Because calories don't tell you what the food is doing inside the body. There's a big difference between eating a bowl of pasta and a slice of pepperoni. The pasta is going to require insulin to be metabolized. The pepperoni is not, and it's going to be converted to ketones. Okay? There's a big difference between eating bread or bacon. So it's important that you know what you eat. When you just count the calories, you could just be eating dessert all the time, and you're not going to get the nutrition that you need. And as you see the pictures here in our grocery stores, right now we are consuming the highest level of ultra-refined, highly processed, and hyper-palatable carbohydrates ever before in history, and they are alarmingly addictive. Myth number 8, vegetable oils are heart healthy. This is so distressing. I can remember when my husband and I made a decision never to cook with anything from an animal, like no lard, no nothing. We went to vegetable oils. Little did we know how oxidative and inflammatory vegetable oils are. And actually, they're not even vegetable oils, they're seed oils. They're seed and bean oils. So you know how hard it is to get oil from a seed or a bean? It's extremely hard. And the process is very refined. You have to heat it at really high temperatures. Then you have to process it with petroleum-based solvents. You have to use chemicals to deodorize the oil because the smell is so off-putting. And then you have to bleach it in order to improve the color of the oil. How many of us know this? And yet Tufts University, Harvard School of Public Health, the Mayo Clinic, on, the American Heart Association, tells us to use vegetable oil instead of lard or tallow or butter. Myth number 9, most illness and disease is genetic. So I've been told this my whole life. And we all know that the genes do determine an awful lot. They determine our hair color, our eye color. They determine, our height, all of our features. But now we know through the study of epigenetics that you can affect the way your genes express themselves. So this is really fascinating. And if you're in an environment where there's chemical pollutions and different things that you want to be careful of because they can harm you. Well, it's now been demonstrated that the number 1 environmental factor on how a gene will express itself is what you put in your body. It's our nutrition that can completely alter the way our genes express themselves. So, for example, someone like me, my father died of cancer, his mother died of colon cancer, my dad had leukemia. So I'm probably prone, genetically speaking, to maybe having an issue with cancer myself, but I really believe that I can affect the way my genes express themselves if I eat properly and live properly. And there are other factors too, of course. So my last myth is the statement, just eat a balanced diet. Because really, what is a balanced diet? Do we really know what a balanced diet is? I think we know what it is, but we need to think like a scientist, okay? We really want to have optimal health. First principles. What are the only two essential dietary macronutrients required? Protein and fat. If you eat an standard American diet that's balanced, you're going to eat a whole boatload of carbohydrates. And then lastly, what is always required to metabolize carbohydrates? Always, 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 our body has to produce insulin. And that is at the heart. Excess insulin, in my opinion, and many others, is at the heart of why we are all struggling with our health. So what are we to do? We are always to read the ingredient list. Don't eat anything until you know what's in it. Number 2, count your grams of carbohydrates. Don't count your calories. Try to get the whole caloric paradigm out and start counting carbohydrates and know how many carbohydrates you're eating. You'd be surprised how many carbohydrates you ate today for lunch. Do you know in a teaspoon if you have a teaspoon of sugar, that's 5 grams right there. So I try to limit my carbohydrates to about 20 grams. So that's 4 teaspoons of food, okay? It's not very much. So we don't even realize how many grams carbohydrates we're consuming every day. And then you want to restrict your carbohydrates. Remember, you can do that. You don't have to eat carbohydrates because they are non-essential. What is essential is protein and fat. So you want to eat animal foods and don't be afraid of them. And you eat the fat that comes with the meat. Eat the fat that comes with the steak. Eat the skin that comes with the chicken. And eat the dark meat. Everything you've been told to do, do the opposite. Eat your eggs. Eat your yolk with your eggs. And enjoy the way it tastes. It's satiating, and it's satisfying, and it's meant to be. And don't be afraid to eat eggs. Eggs are wonderful. They are a perfect blend of protein and fat, the yolk and the white. They're a total package, and they're versatile. And eggs, people have had chickens throughout history, but they haven't eaten chickens the way we eat chicken. You know why they wanted their chickens? For the egg. So you didn't kill the chickens as often. You kept your chickens so that you could eat their eggs. And then you can bake with the egg, make omelets with the eggs, you can scramble the eggs, you can do all kinds of things with the eggs. Okay, so I'm going to close with a little video montage of some activities that I enjoy, and I'm really just intending to encourage all of you, regardless of your age, to know that life does not have to be painful. We don't have to have aches and pains. We don't have to have stiff joints if we take care of ourselves and we give our bodies the things that they need. So I hope you will enjoy this.
Light breakthrough, I'm really needing it. To tell the truth, I wish it was immediate. Show me how to hold on, slow down. Don't gotta get what I want right now, 'cause you'll come through again, 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 again. Oh, but even if you take your time, even if you say I gotta wait in line, go ahead and do what you gotta do. God, I'm giving you control. Oh, 'cause even if it's hard to see, I believe you're doing something good in me. Go ahead, 'cause you're doing it with love, and you're not gonna rush my life. It's alright, go on and take your time. Take your time, take your time. slow down. Don't gotta get what I want right now, 'cause you'll come through again, again, again and again. Oh,